Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nigel Canning. It's only just turned 2 o'clock, so if you could just bear with me for another minute or so. I can see that a few more people are joining. There's a substantial number of people registered, and sometimes it just takes a little while for the system to let attendees register and come in, but they are coming in, and the numbers are building up. Hope everyone's well. And yes, so if you could just give us a minute, and I'll get going. Thank you very much. So that looks good. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for today's webinar. Those last few attendees seem to have joined successfully, so thank you very much. Welcome on board. So today's webinar is focusing on Zyxel's security offerings. In the past, perhaps we've focused too much on sort of pure product detail. So today we really want to go over in default state, I suppose you might call it, the actual products, but we also want to go over what Zyxel Networks in the UK and within Europe offers in relation to support to our partners and resellers like yourselves. Because obviously security perhaps is a bit more of an involved solution. Sometimes people are reticent to get involved, whereas in fact, with the appropriate support from ourselves, from within our support teams and so on and so forth within Europe, you're more than able to take on board security solutions. So that's where we're coming from today. It's going to be partly about products, but partly emphasizing how we can support you as partners, how there's a lot of resource out there, and make it clear what resource is actually out there. I'm joined today with my colleague Chris Buchanan, who's on the line, hopefully. You there,
Yeah, good
Chris?
afternoon, everybody.
There you go, Chris is on there as well. Chris is sort of distribution and sales manager within the UK. He can obviously offer a different take from the sort of maybe the commercial side of things and what Zyxel offers, and that's where we're coming from basically. So I will get going, and thank you very much. Here we go. So one of the things that obviously a lot of people don't realize is how long Zyxel Networks has been around in the networking business, including security and switching and so on and so forth. So I have a very long heritage, more than 30 years, hundreds of millions of devices. A huge number of businesses are dependent on Zyxel Networks products. We're a global company, all of the countries in the world. Ironically, excuse me, this is truth. I dealt with a customer the other day in Uganda that's buying a huge amount of fiber-based networking equipment. So it genuinely is the case that we are all around the world. We have a large number of employees, obviously passionate about networking. We have our own R&D and service provider divisions, part of the company. So we have a really good heritage. They're quality products. We design and develop them ourselves. So we're not OEMing them and bringing them in from outside parties. The other thing that we wanted to point out, as I said at the beginning, is really the kind of the additional value within the UK and Europe that we can bring to our partners. So as it says on the slide here, we have a regional presence. So we're in Europe. Obviously, we have a UK focus as well. We have a European partner program. So if you're not a member of what we call the ZAP program, which is the Zyxel Ally program, I would suggest you join that, and we can help you do that afterwards. We can, at the right time, support you with projects, from additional commercial support, depending on the scale of the projects. What a lot of people don't realize that we have is we have what's called lifetime warranty on our business products, which is part of what the security range is within. And what it's called the limited lifetime warranty. So that means we support it for an additional 5 years after it is declared end of life. So that is a substantial warranty, not just during its active sale period, but also after, once it's declared end of life. We also offer next business day replacement services. We have a substantial amount of support, if you like, on the right-hand side, which is obviously we can support you from a pre-sales guidance, maybe choosing the appropriate firewall, choosing the appropriate device with wired switching or wireless and so on and so forth. But we're here to help support partners. We have a substantial post-sales support campus within Europe, multilingual people, partner program members can get expedited support within the support campus. There's nowadays as well, given COVID, there's a substantial amount of webinar resource, both within the UK, like today's webinar, but also the support campus staff have been doing a substantial number of webinars themselves. They vary from like basic unpacking type videos to more detailed, how to set up a VPN, how to do wireless access points, captive portals, all kind of networking videos that are out there. On the support campus as well, there's a substantial amount of technical guidance from a self-service point of view, so you can actually search within the portal itself, but there'll be PDFs to help you set up devices, so on and so forth. And we also have a substantial cloud-based network management family, which we'll go into later on. So as you can see, it's a very substantial value that we can bring to our partners, not just the products. The other thing I want to emphasize is how comprehensive the whole solution set is end to end. So obviously you've got your security appliances, security devices that are UTM devices or site-to-site VPNs, but there's also wireless solutions from standalone access points, controller-based devices, and more and more nowadays, is our Nebula cloud-based solution. We also have, if you are a company that also deals with in-building mobile solutions, so signal issues for mobile networks, we also have an in-building DAS offering as well. Wired solutions, obviously Ethernet switching has been around now for many decades. That's one of our biggest market areas, but that obviously integrates with our security appliances, so that if you have a complete security appliance, wired switching and wireless solution all wrapped together and managed via our cloud network management platform, you can literally see every aspect of the networking activity from within a cloud solution. For many years, probably a lot of people knew Zyxel as broadband gateway suppliers. Millions of the devices are out there. We're also in routing and GPON fiber optic access solutions. The other thing a lot of people don't realize is we have a substantial number of 4G and 5G indoor and outdoor routers and gateways, very popular over the last year or so to give instant access if your lease line goes down or whatever. And we have a number of sort of utilities that can help you deploy and manage devices from the firmware upgrade point of view, so on and so forth. And those utilities are what we call ZON, which is the Zyxel One Network, and there's an access point configurator. And then obviously one of the big platforms is the actual Nebula platform. Now it's in brackets here as software-defined networking, but obviously there's the network, there's the Nebula cloud management platform, and then the software-defined networking platform is treated separately. One of the other tools is Secure Reporter, that allows you to basically report centrally on all your security appliances and what the activity is, so on and so forth. We'll go into that later on. The other thing quickly is we've been doing security products for well over 20 years. This is just a very useful slide because it highlights the fact that we've been registered with an organization in the States called the ICSA, very highly regarded. Basically, all people that are serious about security products, they register their devices and send them over to the ICSA to be tested. Any weaknesses are documented, and obviously they go off and get fixed, and then we get returned back to the ICSA labs for certification. But the point I'm making here is that if you weren't serious, you wouldn't be on the ICSA. So you can literally go on that website, you can search for Zyxel or any other competitor, and you'll see all of the devices and the testing and the approvals and so on and so forth. So why is security so important is what the slide says. And a lot of people, I think, probably think that they're never going to be hit. So we just want to raise a few points to sort of help you go to your customer base and discuss security. Obviously, a lot of small businesses, for some reason, think that because they are small, they are not going to be attacked. So nearly over half of them think that's going to be the case. And the irony of it is they have absolutely no understanding of how to protect themselves. So they might have, a laptop or whatever with a default, say Windows 10 antivirus stack, but they have no other internet security resourced available to them. 60% of those small businesses, if they are attacked to any substantial extent, will go out of business in 6 months, according to one of the US security alliances. Also, the cost of actually dealing with the aftermath of an outbreak is just a nightmare. You just imagine having to reload all your devices, recover all your data, assuming that you have backed it all up, so on and so forth. It is a genuine, absolute nightmare. So the irony of it is that just under half of businesses that are actually breached are small businesses. So ironically, a lot of them don't think they're going to be hit, but the evidence is that they will be a substantial proportion of the businesses that are hit. And over the last year or so, the increase in small businesses being attacked has just gone up hugely. No one's actively going out looking or defining what a small business is when they're probing the internet, but clearly the amount of criminal and malicious activity that's going on is just going up and up and up and up and up. And so obviously people are stumbling over small businesses that are not appropriately secured. Just as simple as that. So when you add all the numbers up and divide it down, obviously there are hacker attacks going on all the time. I should imagine it's less than 39 seconds anyway. A lot of businesses also simply do not have a plan in place as to how to react to a cyber attack in the first place. So the statistics are quite dire, really. So if you discuss those with your customers, hopefully they will then be able to consider, why you should consider a Zyxel security solution in the first place. So what we want to do in our slides and our website, and what I would say is the slides will get sent to you as PDFs after this webinar. And if you do need any more sort of information or slides to discuss things with your customers, we've got lots of content that we can share with you. What I will point out is if you look at the slides and the various content on the web now, we've made quite an effort to rationalize the presentation down to our core series of security products. And the way we've referred to these solutions is that we have a solution for every customer. So we refer to them, as you can see here from left to right, the Simplicity Straightforward Firewall VPN series. In the middle, you've got the replacement to the hugely popular USG series, now called the USG Flex series. And then you've got the ultimate security solution, which is called the ATP series. And the ATP stands for Advanced Threat Protection. So what I'll do is later on during the slide, you'll see that I'm going to go through each particular family, and you'll see what it offers, what it doesn't offer, and what one family offers above and beyond the previous family. The other big offering that people may or may not be aware of is obviously our Nebula Network Cloud Management Platform. So Nebula now offers security as well as obviously it's always done switching and wireless and the overarching network management platform. So literally from a complete single pane of glass or for an app for that matter, you can manage and monitor your solutions, and you can do that for all customers, all sites, all devices under that single pane of glass. So if you are a service provider or a managed service provider, and you want a very efficient way of coming up with creating a network solution that includes security, wired and wireless devices, Nebula is the way to do it. And one of the key things that I'll explain later on is how the USG Flex is now inherently manageable via Nebula, so that the security offerings within Nebula has increased substantially in the last few months. One of the other things that we, as I said at the beginning, we do want to emphasize basically is the comprehensive support that is on offer from Zyxel Networks in the UK and within Europe. And so it's not just from headquarters. So we have pre-sales support, so that's myself, my colleague Danny, and then we've got other people within the technical domain, the product managers that we can reach out to and get additional support if there is a very detailed question that or solution that people require. There's a lot more videos out there, as I said before, about how to set things up, how to do VPNs, how to do Nebula, all sorts of things. Within the European support campus now, there is a training academy that's been set up. So there's some initial basic training for all the product sets, which is free. If you want sort of Zyxel certified networking type courses, they're on there as well, and you can sign up to them and pay for them. The key thing I would say about all the training now is that it is online. You can start and stop it, so you don't have to sort of set yourself a whole day aside. You can go through it in stages. The training is quite sensibly, logically broken up. It's ideal to get apprentices maybe initially up and running on Zyxel products for free on the ZCMP training. And then as they develop and get their heads around certain things, they can obviously go on to do ZCNE. That is all within the European support campus. The other thing, of course, which I've touched on is warranty support. As I said, we've got substantial warranties on our products. We have obviously good faith in them. As I said, we design and develop them. We know what's gone into them. We know what testing we've done, and we're more than prepared to offer a good, well, a fantastic 5-year warranty. There are very few companies that offer that kind of warranty. We can also do the next business day support on our security devices. The other thing people don't realize is that we offer firmware upgrades throughout the lifetime of the products. That is free, always has been free, always will be free. There are some other more sort of nebula focused features which, you know, with the appropriate licensing, if you're offering a service and you want a very efficient management of your solutions, Nebula is ideal for that. So you have features like cloning, so you can have a reference design, so, you know, a small coffee shop or a small restaurant, and then when you have to roll out that solution to the next restaurant or the next coffee shop, you literally reference the clone configuration and you replicate it to the new site and then tweak what you need to do. So it's incredibly efficient for rolling out, supporting, monitoring and managing your solutions. And I mean, obviously the nice thing is as well that the customers get a very high level of support as well, in terms of if you've got an app, you can get alerts sent to you if something goes wrong. So you can be very responsive to your customer. The other thing that we do want to emphasize is that we basically partner with a lot of the global leading security specialists. So we design and develop our own hardware and software that's on there, but we also leverage relationships with top-end global companies like McAfee, Webroot, Last Line here, you see Trend and so on and so forth. So we are bringing together, excuse me, best of breed global security suppliers, integrating it with our own hardware and software offerings to create a really good security solution that leverages that we can support ourselves, all within our own umbrella. And these global relationships are effectively one of the only ways now to actually offer security in depth, because there is no one, you know, magic bullet solution to security. You really do have to leverage best of breed global sort of cloud-based security engines, bring them all together with your own solution, wrap it up and then support it. And this is where we're coming from. So this is literally, these are the kind of global high-end companies that we have long-term relationships with, which are in those products that you would be buying to offer a security solution. Now what we move on to is essentially a description of a lot of the functionality that is within the product. So you've obviously got features like VPN high availability. So obviously for some people that have site VPNs that are critical to their business offering, we offer a technology that allows VPN high availability. Nearly all our devices have dual WAN ports, so that you can do load balancing and you can do multiple WAN connectivity. So if one connection goes down, the 4G failover connection, for instance, takes over and you've still got connectivity. So that high value load balancing and multi-WAN offering is there as standard. The VTI interface is just a mechanism via which VPN high availability and so on and so forth takes place. The other thing that obviously in the last 14, 15 months has actually gone through the roof is obviously simplified but secure remote access. So we have SSL VPN secure extender software. We support level 2 tunneling protocols over the traditional IPsec protocol suite. Obviously, VPNs can be quite tricky to set up, site-to-site VPNs, for instance. So we have what we call an easy VPN wizard that just helps you to get started with VPN. There's also a lot of VPN support on the European support campus. There's literally the entire sections on VPNs. It's classed as end-to-end and user-to-end, which is, you know, basically remote access connectivity. The other thing, obviously, we're just pointing out that we use I said IP protocol suite, sorry, IPsec protocol suite, and we're using the the more advanced hashes and encryption protocols and so on and so forth, so that you can be guaranteed to have security. The other areas of functionality is obviously they term it to be frontline defense and protection, but obviously nowadays it's very much a given that you've got antivirus. We also offer, through these global partnerships with all those engines that I've already mentioned, content filtering, so that you can characterize your customers or your staff's access, track what they're doing, and categorize it basically. And then you can obviously apply control to that. So the whole point of content filtering and application intelligence is to either block things or to actually control and traffic shape that. So certain dodgy content you would want to block, certain other traffic patterns to say, Netflix or YouTube video, you would want to restrict and bandwidth manage because you don't want it to use old excuse me, to use all the internet bandwidth on watching videos. More sophisticated features for the higher end products tend to be things like geographical enforcement. Geographical enforcement within the IP protocols suite was never designed to be. There was never meant to be any geographical aspect to the IP protocol suite. But now, with special geographical IP engines that are out there, you can actually work out where an IP address is coming from, so that now you can actually use real-time geolocation reputation services. So you can say, for instance, I don't want to allow any accesses from, sorry to pick on these countries, Russia, North Korea, or China, for instance, and that's what geographical enforcement can offer you. And that is available within the two main higher end product sets. The other security functionality that we haven't mentioned so far is sandboxing and machine learning. The whole point of sandboxing is one of the really difficult security issues that's been now the case for a few years is the zero-day threats. Antivirus protections are fairly well known because you can do it on signatures and heuristics. Zero-day threats, so threats that people haven't found out about yet, and certain invalid behaviors are quite difficult to detect. Our higher end offerings have what's called sandboxing, and basically it leverages a technology to identify these threats in a safe environment and then destroy them. But one of the key things to probably point out about that, and it comes up in some slides in a minute, is that it's not so much machine learning, but it's learning what that security threat is. So if you do the analysis safely and you find out it is suspect and dangerous, you then learn from that and you block it and you create the heuristics that are then fed back positively to all the security devices out there to block them that much quicker. So the whole ecosystem is positively being fed back on a global basis through all of our security engines, through all of our other partners' security engines, so that the whole system is continuously learning. So although some of these things like machine learning and AI are being oversold from a marketing point of view, in this aspect, it is very true that the positive feedback and the threats that they learn does subsequently protect you and everybody else that's out there. So every device that is learning is fed back in this positive loop so that all partners learn from it. Obviously, we have solutions to deal with botnets and block malware. So the botnets are rather nasty, so that if you are infected by a botnet, the command and control centers can be cut off. So if you activate the botnet protection, you will see that the botnets will die basically. Intrusion prevention and intrusion detection essentially is the original core, so-called UTM, Unified Threat Management. So it's really a given. So intrusion detection and prevention was introduced with the USGs, and was obviously then being taken over by the USG Flex and the ATP. So that's a common thing. So any kind of invalid scanning, network traffic patterns, invalid protocols, they are picked up and instantly blocked. And we also offer reputation filters. So basically these are accesses that match well-known real-time dodgy IP lists, and then basically the access is instantly blocked. And these are using, as I said, global internet security engines. We have a couple of other slight sort of bit of an aside, if you like, not necessarily security as such, but by leveraging the device, the on-premise device, you can also manage on-premise access points if that's what you'd like to do. And there's also like a hotspot management service that you can use. So sometimes, perhaps more like caravan parks and people like that. So To gain access to the wireless network, to gain outbound secure internet access, you would have a hotspot management as well. We also have, in terms of resilience and integration, we have link aggregation on circuits, high availability pro on a lot of the devices, which is free, I might point out. So if you think how critical the security gateway function is on a network, if you lose the device, you lose all communication for all of your staff or all of your customers. What high availability pro does is you have two devices in an active passive mode with a heartbeat link between the two. All of the state of the active device is maintained within the passive device, and should the active device fail, the passive device instantly takes over. And as I say, you need a mid to high range device to take advantage of that, but that is now free and a hugely significant feature. We can do SSL packet inspection with the appropriate certificates installed, and then we can integrate into Radius and Active Directories so that you can have an authentication and administration policy that is linked into, say, your AD or your Radius server. So you don't have to go and create, additional users within our environment. You can just leverage your user database that you've already got. The next thing, which is a lot of people don't realize, obviously, if you're taking advantage of any cloud-based services within Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure, we are one of the few brands that have actually gone and got our VPN solutions validated both by Amazon Web Services and by Azure, so that you can create VPNs directly into those cloud-based solutions and know that the services and the resources that you're using are secured via a VPN. So next, we start moving on to the actual product details in a hopefully a sort of simplified way. So this is actually quite a nice, useful differentiator slide table sort of slide. So you've got the simplicity products, i.e. the VPN solution. You've got the flexibility, USG Flex solutions, and then you've got the ultimate advanced threat protection solutions. There's a lot of common naming in the devices. So for instance, you'll see under the USG Flex and the ATP, you've got the 100, the 200, the 500, and the 700. So when you look at the actual models, there's a great similarity in between the two. Obviously, the simplicity model is essentially it's a VPN and a traditional firewall. So it tends to be outbound NATing. You can do site-to-site VPNs, as I said. You can get an optional content filtering license if required, but essentially the VPN product family is there for traditional simple firewalling and VPNs. It can also be used with a specific license. It can do our software-defined networking solution as well. So really the first, if you like, internet security with UTM type functionality and higher level, higher value offerings is the USG Flex. So you can see the type of additional features that it's starting to provide. So you can see on the table geographical enforcement, intrusion prevention and detection, and so on and so forth. So all of the black dots are starting to differentiate the features that the USG Flex offers. So a lot of these features from a UTM device is obviously a high layer application control, antivirus, which is obviously malware, intrusion detection and prevention. Email security is in there as well if required. Obviously, to a certain extent now, there's less and less email security is done on premise. It tends to be done via, say, Office 365 or whatever. But if you are still for regulatory reasons, like maybe certain financial issues or legal solicitors, sometimes they have to have solutions in-house that keep their email under control. You can offer email security and anti-spam features via the devices as well. I'll come to the express mode and the deep scan in a minute, but you can also see that the ultimate solution starts to offer features that none of them do. So sandboxing is to do with the zero-day threats. IP reputation filtering is another feature that is unique to the ATP. And also we've now introduced DNS reputation filtering to help deal with some of the difficulties in securing HTTPS type traffic where you can't perhaps look at the actual traffic because it's being encrypted. So DNS reputation can help you to block that traffic. So, the high end is the ATP, it offers everything. USG Flex is obviously offering a substantial amount of those features, and then the simplicity offering is just essentially basic firewalling, perhaps more to do with creating site-to-site VPNs. So as I said, we have an offering in all the spaces, and you need to understand your customers' requirements and then map those to our product sets. What the slides now start to do is they start to give a brief picture, sort of overview of each particular series, and then they break into a bit more detail on each of the series. So you see a sort of, you know, a common thread to the slides. So the reason I'm saying that is obviously when you get the slides, if you want to know your journey through them, hopefully that will help to explain it. So the Simplicity VPN device is just that, straightforward firewall with VPN features. On top of that, which is what this is trying to show you, obviously you can get a content filtering license if required. It can also act as a wireless controller, an on-premise wireless controller. When you reach certain versions of the device, you can implement high availability, as I've mentioned. And as an aside, if you get the SD-WAN license, you can use the VPN series to create an SD-WAN. The USG Flex series then comes up. Obviously, it's the successor to the hugely popular USG range, much more higher performance. It's basically running on a new hardware platform, and there's some technology and security engines that have gone into there that will substantially increase the throughput of the device. So a relatively small physical device is able to do and deal with the characteristics of a very high performance internet circuit. They obviously have UTM functionality, and they call it here enhanced. What it's basically saying is there are additional filter lists that are now built into the UTM functionality that allows you, particularly within school or education environments, to deal with some of the other terrorism-related lists that you need to deal with that have always been problematic. The USG Flex is now available and can be managed via Nebula, which is a fantastic change this year in the last few months. Basically, you can onboard a USG Flex device to Nebula and then manage the entire solution from a point of security, wired Ethernet switching, wireless, and the overall management of the whole solution. So that's a fantastic thing this year. And obviously, as I said before, device high availability is on there. From about when you get to a USG Flex 500 model, that provides high availability. Then we move on to the Ultimate series, the Advanced Threat Protection devices. Once again, it shows you, some additional features that are maybe not necessarily security related. So it's got wireless controller functionality, device high availability, but it also has the enhanced UTM and URL threat filters, and particularly its biggest area over the USG Flex Flexibility series is the sandboxing, and this is the zero-day threat technology to stop those threats coming through. Now we break out to a bit more information on each of the devices. I tend not to go through these in any huge detail because there's still quite a few slides to go through, but hopefully it gives you a view and an understanding of what each device does, its characteristics, its throughputs, and so on and so forth. So the idea of these slides is basically, once again, show you the basics, and then it moves on to VPN 20, VPN 50, VPN 100, so it's quite obvious. So the slides show you the kind of capacity of the network, what its stateful packet inspection throughput is, what kind of UTM throughput would it offer if you've got antivirus and intrusion detection and prevention switched on. Obviously, this doesn't apply to the VPN family, but you can see the kind of thing as well. How many interfaces are on there? How many of those are SFPs? Are they LAN? Are they in the demilitarized zones? Things like, how many access points default to the support, and what's the maximum number? So these are the point of these slides, which I'll go through slightly quicker, because the whole point of them is just to help you simply and quickly understand what device you might need to use with a customer. So the USG Flex slides come up in the same way. You can see what's on offer, and then we also move into one of the features that is quite unique to the ATP and the USG Flex, and we call it Express Mode. One of the things probably I should try and emphasize, what we're trying to do is offer security solutions that have a suitably sized and scaled on-premise hardware device, i.e., a device, a security device, and that then leverages all of the security resources that are available within the cloud engines that you have access to. So rather than rather than have to have a hugely powerful server or networking device on premise that has massive amounts of CPU resource, massive amounts of memory, even disk to maintain the databases with all the heuristics in and so on, which in many respects is just not practical for a small to medium-sized business. These express mode solutions are leveraging cloud resource, cloud query, and stream mode to gain the advantage from those cloud engines, but on a relatively small physical device that is affordable to the small to medium-sized business. That's the whole point. They haven't got security solutions. If it's so vastly expensive that they can't afford it, they're never going to have it. So express mode is one of those mechanisms whereby it's leveraging cloud resources. So it's passing the actual security scan over to the cloud resource, taking the response that comes back, and then accessing it. What the table shows is, and I would, in truth, forget the USG legacy column, because the USGs have gone end of life, and those that haven't gone end of life are going to be going end of life this year. You really need to just consider the USG Flex and the ATP, and you can see that, but they both offer the cloud query express mode. If you also want what they call the deep scan mode, which is basically a sort of a combination of the two, a combination of one or the other, that's what they can do. The hybrid mode, which is only available on the ATP, is where you can basically stream it through and scan it, and it can also do the same scan within the cloud. So it really is taking advantage of all of our cloud resources, and also taking advantage of an appropriately scaled on-premise physical device. There's a little bit more information on the next slide about the types of queries, what hash matching is all about. So one of the clever things is, rather than have to transfer the entire file or the entire data stream over to the cloud, you do a hash and you provide the hash over into the cloud. That has advantages in terms of performance, because obviously you don't have to transfer so much data. The threats will evolve and be fed back from the machine learning anyway, and obviously these have a really fantastic detection rate. Obviously, there's some disadvantages from each of these solutions. One of those disadvantages is obviously it requires internet access to be up and running to actually do that. So hence, obviously, if your internet link is down, then you can't do that particular scan, but then you won't be doing anything else anyway. Sometimes, obviously, what they term mutant malware might be skipped, because obviously if the hash isn't detected, then you will allow something through that you shouldn't allow through. The deep scan mode, the stream mode, is whereby basically it's using offline protection, so offline hashes and databases to scan things on premise, essentially. Whether or not it gives better or for fresh mutant malware detection, that's debatable, isn't it? One of the issues with that, one of the disadvantages is that is obviously it's really dependent on CPU power for that kind of throughput rate. So if you're having a lot of traffic that does require deep scanning, you need a fairly beefy device to be able to do that. The other thing is, of course, if you've got the number of signatures is limited by the hardware, so the amount of memory or the amount of storage in the device defines how many signatures can actually be dealt with. So the answer in some respects is the hybrid mode, which is available on the ATP, so you can do both hash matching and signature-based matching. So obviously the advantages are that the ATP offers the best level of protection using both mechanisms, but obviously there's a cost associated with that because it's more CPU, more memory, more storage. One of the things that we want to point out as well is, with some of the hashing and the cloud query engines, the throughput of it on a UTM device can be substantially higher. So the on-premise device is relatively small in scale, but its performance is fantastic because it's using the cloud engines as well as the on-premise CPU. So some of these graphs here are just showing you if people have used the USGs before, what you can expect out of the older device versus what you can expect out of the newer device. And obviously you can see the difference in the performance on the newer devices, which is substantial. In some respects it's more than double, and other respects it's, I was saying here, it's 5 times, but huge improvement in performance. Then we move on to the model. So you've got the 100 range, which is a nice sort of individual person at home, businessman at home, or a coffee shop, so on and so forth. Once again, you can see all the capacity, the number of interfaces, and so on and so forth on the slides. For bigger solutions, you want to move into the USG Flex 200 and the 500 and 700 range. And once again, you can see on here that they all got a substantial number of Ethernet ports, SFP cages. So if you want the fiber connection, it's all taken care of, and it's all there as standard. A lot of devices, a lot of other competitors that kind of SFP connectivity is an option, quite a substantial and expensive option, whereas ours are built into all the devices, standard. Now we move on to the ultimate range, the ATP series. Once again, similar features, and obviously what I mentioned earlier on is sandboxing. So I'm going to skip on because you've seen those pictures before. The conventional UTMs basically, are heuristics based, so signatures, scanning, matching, pattern matching, and so on and so forth. What the ATP does, it's using some special leveraged engine to a company called Lastline to actually detect invalid behavior, so-called zero-day threats, and then blocking them and destroying them. So the way conventional unified threat management works is you've got a lot of mechanisms like anti-spam, intrusion detection, so on and so forth, application control, and there are things that are obviously good, you know them to be good, and they're almost certainly good. And it also is very good at detecting obviously bad things where the signatures are also known, and things that are very suspicious. So you've got the green stuff that you can let through, the red stuff that you can instantly block. But you've also, unfortunately, got a lot of grey areas in the middle, that things that perhaps could be good but look a bit suspicious, or there are things that look suspicious but perhaps they could be okay. And obviously, it's Sod's law, you can't work out which way around it is. And what the sandboxing system does is it sends things off, it sends these unknown threats off to a special zero-day threat engine that lives in the cloud. And the idea of it is that traffic that is suspicious and unknown is sent over to the sandboxing solution. Let the drawing come up. Sometimes it's been referred to as smart cloud intelligence. What it does is it basically looks at the incoming threats, it analyzes them in real time, and what it learns about those threats, it feeds back as well. Well, it's one of the most important things to establish, that basically it's constantly feeding back, constantly updating the threat databases. So once the ATP and its cloud engines learn about a security threat, it's updated back to all of the devices to learn from, basically. This is hopefully a useful drawing. So the idea is that your unknown threats come into this sandbox solution. And the idea of the sandbox is you can take the file or take the attachment or you can take the traffic apart within a safe environment, the so-called sandbox. It then, for instance, oops, just caught my headphone. It then runs or analyzes and takes things apart. So for instance, if you were to take apart an attachment, a zip attachment, and it's got a PDF file in there that tries to tweak with the network interface on your laptop, that is clearly very dodgy behavior and not the characteristics of a PDF document. So it says, okay, that's clearly a malicious attack. Excuse me, it sends it off to be destroyed, but it learns about what that threat looked like, and it puts that into the sort of signature information database, so that then that all gets fed back to all the other devices and they learn from it. So as it says here, it's a global security ecosystem. So all devices in the ATP family that see all these kind of threats in real time, they are learning all the time. And then that causes the feedback to the devices so that your security is literally ongoing and updated in real time. So it's very difficult to get better than this. This slide I left in there because I think, ironically, it's one of the best slides. So zero-day threats and that kind of problem is very difficult to work out. And basically, we leverage a solution, a market leader from a company called Lastline. And the key thing from the slide is how we are able, with our agreements with Lastline, basically a global high-end security supplier, to basically offer a fantastic security effectiveness level at fantastic cost of ownership per protected megabit. So we're well up there. We're higher than some of the well-known global enterprise companies, like Heat, Checkpoint, Fortinet, and Cisco. So the important thing is that ATP series can support phenomenal security effectiveness detection rates, but at a cost effectiveness that there's no way you can beat it, literally no way you can beat it. So in the small to medium sized business space, you can do things in the security space for your customers that will be hugely expensive if you went and tried to get Cisco enterprise advice, which, you know, the order of magnitude more expensive. So I often think this is a fantastic slide because it basically highlights how good the devices are and how cost effective they are in the small to medium sized business space. Then it moves on as per the other product families, details the devices, the capacities, the throughputs, and so on and so forth. Obviously, now that these devices support AV, antivirus and intrusion detection, then these rates and throughputs become relevant. So once again, really, you need to talk to your customer, work out what their requirements are now. If possible, try and work out what their requirements are going to be, say, in a year's time, because a security solution and opportunity doesn't come up perhaps that often, and normally you might, you know, do it over sort of, it'll be stable for say 3 years. So if they've got a 100 meg circuit at the moment, you might hope that they'll have a gigabit circuit in say a year's time, and they'll up it to say 200 meg over the gigabit circuit. So I often say to people, try and scale the solution so that it's going to be a great solution for the next 3 or even 5 years, probably 3 years. So don't necessarily pick the lowest end device, try and work out what the requirement is going to be, say 1 year down the line. So we have products, we have products that cover all kind of avenues. You just choose the appropriate number of interfaces, the throughputs, and so on and so forth. What I should say, we're coming up to questions and answers now. Thank you very much for your time. Both the USG Flex and the ATP series have a bundled security license with them. So, but there's a slight subtle difference between the ATP license and the USG Flex license. The ATP comes with what's called a gold security pack license. It would be better off to call it the security pack license. There is only the security pack license, and it licenses all the features of the product. The license does need to be applied to gain all of those security features. The USG Flex comes with a bundled license. Once again, that licenses all of the features for a year. But the USG Flex, by its name, flexibility, you can break that bundled license down. So if you only needed, say, antivirus and email scanning, you can buy a license that just provides that. If you want me to be honest, does that make sense? No, I can't see why anybody would buy kind of anything but the bundled license that offers everything, because when you approach the security issue, you want to have security in depth. So you want to have as many security engines in play as is possible. Assuming that one is going to pick something up and reducing the license, it doesn't save a lot of money, but it's leaving you exposed. So why you would do that, I don't know. That's my personal opinion. You do what you want to do. But that's the difference between the licensing. The ATP comes with a single license pack that enables everything. The USG Flex does have a bit more flexibility if required. The basic simplicity VPN firewall device essentially only has the one additional feature, the content filter, because it is more of a site-to-site VPN or a straightforward outbound firewall. And that is it. I shall wait here and answer any questions. Thank you very much for your time today. One of the things I often mention is if people aren't aware of our MSP program, put the link up to the MSP Evolve program. My contact details are here. You can email me as nigel.canning@zyxel.com. Chris Buchanan, you can do him on chris.buchanan. If you need anything, I will sit here until any questions are answered. And once again, thank you very much for your time. Nice to meet you all, and have a good afternoon. Thank you very much indeed.
There has been a couple of sales questions, Nigel, but I've already dealt with those.
Thanks, Chris.
There's a couple of questions coming, Nigel.
Can you hear me, Chris? It's just been muted. Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So the David Hewitt about Secure Reporter, and then Martin Norfolk, which flex model would be capable of. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I can. Is he
I
still
think it'd be
online?
good if you talk through Secure Reporter now. There's still quite a few people on, so if you talk through that.
Sure.
Maybe.
Okay. So if everyone can hopefully hear me, Secure Reporter is our centralized security reporting platform. It's cloud-based. What you do is you need a license for it. The bundled licenses with the USG Flex and the ATP include a Secure Reporter license. So you log into Secure Reporter, you create an organization, register the device, and then you enable Secure Reporter on the device itself. And all of the appropriate logging and security event information gets sent up to the Secure Reporter platform. No data traffic gets snooped on and sent up to the platform. It's all to do with what is going on, throughputs, the type of viruses that are being picked up, so on and so forth. And you can control the level of anonymity of the client connections that the security device can see. So you can have a fully anonymous analysis, or you can have a partially anonymous analysis, or you can have a fully identifiable analysis. So you can identify a particular PC by its name or whatever. But the key thing about Secure Reporter, it's a central platform. It's multi-tenanted, so you can configure all of your customers and all of your devices to report back into it. And it's great for analytics, providing reporting services. So what you can do, you can configure reporting on the platform so that your end user customer can get sent a report, weekly or monthly, detailing what is going on your internet circuit. So how many viruses have been detected, what threats or what patterns have been picked up. So one of the good things about Secure Reporter is not only does it let the IT reseller or the IT manager know what's going on your network from a security point of view, but you can also use it to engage with your customers from a sort of account management point of view. So you can go and look at the throughput on the link and say, look, to be honest, you're heavily using this circuit, it's being maxed out. Do you want to consider an upgrade to the circuit? If a lot of people perhaps are wasting their time on Netflix or YouTube, perhaps you want to tweak the firewall rules to either block that traffic or bandwidth management, limit it, or even introduce a mechanism to control it. So it's a very good centralized security reporting platform that is available as part of the bundled licenses that come with the solutions. There is there's a website which has a demonstration account. I believe it is just securereporter.zyxel.com, and the default demonstration account is normally left on the login page, so because essentially it's read only. I've got quite a nice data sheet on the product. I know there's an individual that has asked a question on it, so I will let me have a look at the questions. I will get that over to is it David? I'll get that over to David. If there's anybody else that would like the Secure Reporter, just email me, nigel.canning@zyxel.co.uk, and I'll send that over to them as well. There's also a question about which USG Flex model would be capable of managing 40 wireless access points. So what you can do, for instance, let me just go back. So for instance, although this is the ATP, it's an equivalent thing on the slide. So you've got 40 access points that you want to manage. If you look at the ATP 200, it's saying the wireless LAN controller functionality offers 40 access points out of the box. If you think obviously you're going to need more than 40, then clearly you want to look at, say, the 500, which supports 72. If I quickly go back to the USG Flex, excuse me just a second. Bear with. Oh, sorry about this. Here we go. No, one more, wrong one. That's what I can do with another screen at home. So the USG Flex 500, what it's saying at the bottom here is that the default access point count supported is 8. The maximum number is 72. To manage more than 8, you get 8 licenses by default with the bundle, but to manage more than 8, you need to buy additional access point management licenses, and there's a special license SKU that you purchase. It's not annual, but it's just a single license that you require. So the USG Flex 200 can support up to 40 access points. So if you know that 40 is your absolute maximum, clearly a 200 will provide that. But in truth, to give a little bit more slack, a USG Flex 500 would support more than 40 up to a maximum of 72. So that was Martin, I believe. Are there any more questions as far as you know, Chris?
No, nothing else.
No, okay, I'll email the information over to David and Martin as well. But thank you very much for those that are still here. Thank you very much, Chris, and have a good afternoon. Cool. Oh, David. Oh, so David Hewitt is still online. I shall get the secure report over to David. Cool. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much indeed.